Hey, this is Tom Schwab, and welcome back to the Podcast Interview Marketing Show, where we don't just talk tactics, we talk transformation. Now, what if the question you've been asking yourself is the wrong one? Today's guest is Jason Jaggard, and he challenged me with one powerful mindset shift. Stop asking, how can I be the best? Instead, ask, what am I truly capable of? Jason's the author of one of my favorite books, Beyond High Performance, and he's the founder of Novus Global, where he and his team of elite coaches, they coach leaders, pro athletes, and entrepreneurs on how to reinvent themselves again and again. He calls it meta performance. It's a mindset that stretches you beyond success into real significance. And in this episode, Jason unpacks how top performers think, the surprising power of coaching, why authenticity is winning in an AI world, and how you can use podcast interviews to share ideas that can't be generated by algorithms. They can only live by your experience. This isn't about adding more to your to-do list. It's about discovering a new gear, a gear that you didn't even know existed. So let's dive into meta performance and learn how to unlock what you didn't even know was possible. Jason, I am so thrilled to be here with you today. I read Beyond High Performance. It was an amazing book. Bought the hard copy so I could take notes. And I think the biggest thing maybe we can start off with is, can you talk about like meta performance? I had never heard that before. And after you brought that up, it was like a category design thing where it's like, I couldn't see the world in any other way.
Thanks, Tom. And thanks for having me on the show. Yeah. So our entry into that is to say that our lives are defined by the questions that we ask and the questions that we don't ask. And so in any given moment, even right now, like my life is being driven by questions like, can I do a good job on this podcast? You're probably asking questions like, hey, how do I make this a great interview for my listeners? And so any kind of behavior is going to be attached to various questions that we're trying to answer in our lives. And what we discovered in working with some of the best athletes in the world, some of the most famous entertainers in the world, is if you can help leaders upgrade their questions, it actually upgrades their performance. And so most people are asking questions like, how do I do a good job? Some people, like high performers, might be answering the question, how can I be the best? And what we've really worked with companies and athletes and entertainers and performers is to say, we want to ask and invite you to ask a bigger question, not how can I be the best or even how can I do a good job, but to ask the question, what am I capable of? And the question, what am I capable of, is fundamentally a different kind of question. And we call that a meta performing question because meta means to transform or to go beyond. It actually transforms your capacity to perform in various areas of your life, whether it's building your company, whether it's in your relationships or whatever it is you want to commit your time to.
And that's a different question than most people are getting asked, right? It's like, what's a passing grade? What's good enough? But that idea of what I'm capable of.
Yeah, it's a powerful question. We say it's not a question you answer, it's a question you answer to. So the question actually becomes like an authority in your life where, like if I've been married for 2 years, we just had our 2-year wedding anniversary. And if you ask me, what kind of coffee does my wife like? That's an answer. I just answer that question. It's no problem. But if you ask me, what does it look like to be a world-class husband? That's different. That's a question that I'll be answering over and over and over again for the rest of my life. And that's not a bug. That's a feature. Like that's part of the joy of being married and learning what it means to be a husband and to grow in your capacity to husband. And we find that what am I capable of is the same kind of question. It's I think Simon Sinek calls it like an infinite game. It's one of those things that you just keep exploring over and over and over again. And every time you go back to it, it has something new for you.
So let's talk about that, like from a performer or an athlete, right? Of how do they think when they've got that time in the spotlight of how they prepare for that and how they really make the most of that.
Well, what's interesting is so we have a sport division that's currently led by Andrew Ladd, who is a 2-time Stanley Cup award-winning hockey player, and he's one of our best coaches. He's fantastic, and he was telling me just recently, he was sharing, hey, Jason, you would think that most professional athletes have a meta performing mindset. Like they're the best in the world. They're paid many of them tons of money. They're doing a job that's in front of millions and millions of people. Of course, they're going to be asking the question, what am I capable of? And And he pointed out, and he didn't mean any disrespect by it, but he pointed out that most athletes do not have a meta performing mindset. Most athletes suffer from what we call the high performer problem, which is where they've arrived. If the team's not winning, it's usually somebody else's fault. You find some kind of level of comfort where you've got your rhythms, you've got your routines, you've got the job that you do. And he mentioned that when people get into let's say the NHL for the first time, there's two different types of athletes in that regard. One is the people who make it to the NHL, and in some ways their dreams have come true, and so they kind of feel like they've just arrived. And then the meta performer shows up, and they've also just had their dreams come true, and they don't say I've arrived. They say I've only just begun. And as much as possible, Jeff Bezos calls it a 0-day mindset. Like there's this idea of coming back to, I'm a beginner at this. I'm just getting started. There's something new. And the athletes who are able to protect and guard that perspective are the ones who are able to reinvent their game over and over and over again.
Well, how about from entertainers, right? Because as you were talking about that, it's like you got to bring your A game every time you're on Broadway, even though it's the same lines that you've been doing over and over. If you're a leader, a CEO, right? When you talk to your team, your investors, you've got to bring your A game every time. So how do you think about it with that?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it is about bringing your A game, but also it's about improving your A game, because what was your A game is not an A game anymore, right? Like the good enough is never good enough, especially if you're playing at the highest levels. And what's necessary, especially in a rapidly changing environment, rapidly changing market. You mentioned entertainers. So like the clients that we work with who are entertainers, I mean, their landscape is radically changing. We worked for a while with literally one of the most famous people on earth. If you Google most famous people on earth, this person would have been on that list. And, their landscape, it used to be you could just be in these huge blockbuster movies, and that was totally fine. And that was a way to do a thing. But now, like, there's Marvel fatigue. There's all these things that are happening in the industry to where it's not enough just to be a star anymore. You have to diversify. You have to. I think Ryan Reynolds was great at this. He created multiple businesses, and George Clooney now sells whiskey, and like there's all these ways of diversifying. And I think it was Jay-Z who said, "I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman." And that's like a new way of looking at what it means to be an entertainer. Of course, the word for entertainment comes from the root word means just to hold your attention. And these people are their living is in holding our attention. And how do you be worth our attention? And that requires constant reinvention, which of course, by the way, is scary, because as soon as you begin reinventing yourself, what if people don't like it? What if it doesn't work? And that's its own conversation in and of itself.
After I said bringing your A game, that's the wrong mindset, isn't it? Because it's not a fixed scale that compared to someone else.
Yeah, for sure. It's reinventing what an A is for you. It's Spinal Tap, man. It's turning it up to 11.
11.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you can get a Spinal Tap and we got to figure out how to get a Monty Python reference, it's a perfect podcast.
I got you, bro. By the time we're done, we'll do it.
So as you go back and look at your previous work, how do you look back on that and improve? Because that's one of the things I always encourage people of: listen to your old podcasts, listen to your old performances. It's cringeworthy at times, but it's like athletes. That's how the game film, that's how you get better.
Well, and a lot of our coaches and a lot of our athletes, actually, so I'm working with a hockey player right now, and he's got a skills coach, and the skills coach sends him clips of his game to evaluate and then get suggestions based on certain things from that skills coach's point of view. And it's actually really fascinating because it's not enough just to watch your own film, because you're going to watch it from your perspective. You're going to have criticisms that the audience may not care about, and you're going to have things that you like that the audience may not like. And so that's where coaching becomes really relevant. It's not just enough to evaluate yourself. You need to evaluate yourself with some kind of believability. And that's a big phrase. Being believable is a big phrase we use in our work a lot. I stole that phrase from Ray Dalio, who was the CEO of Bridgewater, wrote a New York Times bestselling book called Principles. And he defines believability as somebody who has a high level of competency, has done something at a high degree of success multiple times, and then also is able to break down the steps and how they're able to do it. And that kind of person has what we call believability. And so as you're trying to increase your performance, it's not enough for you to simply to reflect on what you think. because you don't have believability. You need to find believable people and then have them reflect with you on what you're doing, and that's when you really start to see like major gains in your performance.
How does believability vary, say, from authority or expertise, right? Because so many people, I think today is this attention economy, right? And I'm a self-proclaimed expert. I'm a self-proclaimed influencer, but they're not believable. How does that go together in there?
Yeah, that's funny. So I appreciate that distinction. Well, one is an expert a true expert has 50% of Ray Dalio's believability formula. So a true expert for sure will have repeated success in something. Otherwise, they're not an expert in it. What they may or may not be able to do is to break it down, right? And so you have that saying, those who can't do, teach, but the inverse is also true. Those who can't teach, do. And oftentimes those who are really good at doing are not able to explain to other people how they're able to do what they do. Most professional athletes are that way. Like very few professional athletes are able to really honestly break down what it is that makes them good at what they do, which is why they're not coaches. That's why they're a point guard. And so both of those skills are necessary. And you're right. There are a lot of charlatans out there who are what we might call thought leaders, which is to say they're opinionated and good at marketing and are able to convince people of things that haven't been field tested or haven't been in the, or haven't actually shown results. And those people you should probably stay away from.
Well, and I think the coaches at Novus Global have that outsider's opinion, right? And one of my favorite phrases is what's ordinary to you is amazing to other, right? What a NHL goalie does, he doesn't understand why everybody else can't do it. So having that outside opinion can give you the reflection back on what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, so this is what's interesting. So the kind of coaching that we do. So as an example, I mentioned that I'm coaching a professional athlete. I don't think it's going to shock anybody. I've never played professional sports. I'm coaching the CEO of an NBA team. I don't know what it's like to run an NBA team. So my believability isn't remotely in the athletic domain or even in the domain of certain types of business. My area of expertise and the expertise of our 70 coaches working with about 700 clients right now in 100 different industries, our expertise is holding a space for people to reinvent what they're capable of. So our expertise is we can work with any person or any team to help them upgrade their performance so that they're getting more done in less time with increased satisfaction, regardless of what domain that they're in. And, there's a saying that we say in the firm where they'll never hire a coach who doesn't have a coach. And so part of what gives us believability is every single coach, including me in the firm, in fact, not only that, but like our chief of staffs, our executive teams, everybody in the firm has a coach. And so this isn't theoretical for us. This isn't something that we just make up and then promote on the internet. This is something that we're exporting with our clients, the tools that we use on ourselves to help each other go beyond high performance. And that's a huge distinction from what a lot of people try to do as they're trying to win.
And I love your brand promise there. Do more with less time, with more joy.
Yeah, joy, happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment, happiness. Yeah.
In this age of like AI and automation where it's all more, it's like that differentiation there of the happiness and really the meta performance that goes with that too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and with AI specifically, I think if you watch, I'm constantly impressed by how quickly audiences grow in their sophistication with new technology. So even if you watch Jurassic Park, which when I was 13 blew my mind, right? And I watch it now, and it's still really good because the story is really good, and Steven Spielberg knows that it's about the characters, not the animals. And you can see the lines in the technology. You can see the blue screen. You can see what Steven was doing. That was cutting edge technology then. And you appreciate it for nostalgia's sake, but then you kind of demand more. I think AI is the same way, but it goes in a different direction. I think as soon as a person, I think especially younger audiences, as soon as a younger person senses that this is designed by AI, like as soon as a person senses, oh, he's just regurgitating AI, or, oh, I'm reading this AI copy online, I think they rebel against it, and they are craving something that looks, feels, and sounds authentic and human. And I think that's one of the reasons why podcasts in your industry is so important, is because younger people especially, are listening to this conversation and they're asking the question, is this real? Like and not just is it real, but like, is Jason saying what he actually thinks, or is he giving talking points? Is Jason saying what he actually thinks, or is this just something that was written by the conglomerate aggregate LLM of chat whatever? And I think that people who are able to be on shows and quote be authentic and or quote say things that they actually believe and think that weren't preloaded for them, those people are going to grow in influence, and they're going to have more capacity to help more people.
As you said that, I was thinking, there's no way AI or AI bots would come up with the Spinal Tap reference there. And it's interesting, today it's not only our ideal clients that are listening to podcasts, it's the AI that refers them also, because AI is looking for human content, and they realize that this is human content, right? I'm from Chicago. I drop my G's on every ING. It's not perfect, but it's who I am.
Yeah. And generally I tend to take an Annie get your gun approach to AI. So like anything I can do, it can do better. It can do anything better than me. And so I believe that eventually they'll be able to have something that is simulated. But I really believe that, I was just talking with some folks about this yesterday. The one thing that human beings want more than anything else is something that is real. And they will, and not to be too graphic, but I mean, that's the difference between like a real intimate relationship and pornography. And it doesn't matter how real that experience can be simulated. In your heart, that's not the pardon my parlance, but like the stripper doesn't really like you. And so you're looking for, human beings can't help it. We are genetically wired to look for, to care about what's real and what's not real. And that's why I think human thought, human ingenuity, even if it's not quote as good as digital thought, will still be in high demand, because we just crave what's real.
Do you think the conversations that maybe we have with a coach or with AI can help us see what's available there? You call it influence fences, and maybe you could explain that a little bit. Yeah. The idea of you don't know what's possible in your own life, right? What is possible? And that outside perspective, like when you were saying you've never coached or owned an NBA team,
yeah.
Right? True, but you also don't have all the limitations and the beliefs that go in there. You can dream like a kid of what could be possible.
Oh, you know what? Tom, that's a really great insight. Yeah. So one of the benefits of working with a coach that doesn't have necessarily domain expertise is they're not encumbered by all your shenanigans, like all your beliefs about how it's supposed to be. Now, a good coach can have experience. Like I'll use Andrew, or like Blake Wheeler is another Stanley Cup winner in our firm. He used to be the captain of the New York Rangers, and so he's working with clients, and yeah, he'll coach athletes, and he knows something about the sport, but he's smart enough to know, as he's been through. So we have a program called the Meta Performance Institute, and any coach who joins our firm goes through the institute, and a lot of people go through the institute and then just go off and do their own coaching thing. And so Blake went through our program and then joined the firm, and so he's well trained, and he knows that when he's working with an athlete, his greatest gift to that athlete is not his experience on the ice. He knows that his greatest gift to that athlete is questioning what that athlete thinks they know about what it means to be a professional hockey player. And that's part of what you pay for. So sometimes this is a distinction we make between like coaching and consulting. And in consulting, you're paying someone for their answers. You're paying someone for their expertise. In coaching, you're paying someone for their questions, and you're paying someone to hold space for your imagination. Right. And so that's why, like when Einstein says that imagination is more important than knowledge, of course he's wrong. That if you're doing something that everyone's already done before, right? Like if you're doing something that everyone's already done before, knowledge is much more important than imagination. That's called consulting, and you should hire people to consult you. But if you're trying to do something in an emerging field, or if you're trying to do something in a rapidly changing field, or if you're trying to do something at the top level and to go beyond what you or other colleagues like in professional sport have ever done before, well, then knowledge is only going to get you so far. And at some point you have to be imaginative. And I just recently, I heard a Nobel laureate say the difference between a good scientist and a great scientist. He said, both scientists are competent, but the difference between a good scientist and a great scientist is imagination and their capacity to think of things that are absurd and then find new connections and then invent things that we'd never thought possible.
And isn't that what makes us human too? As you were saying that, I'm thinking, well, yeah, you could ask ChatGPT, what would Jason say to this question? Or, go read through all of the books, all the podcast interviews, but on the spot to see how magic is put together. That's the creativity part behind it.
I think so. And by the way, so two things, one kind of against AI and then one pro AI, like if you get 30 people in a room together and then have them all pull their phones out and pull up their chat GPT and ask, what would Jason say about X? Each one of those GPTs is going to give a different answer. Whereas if you ask Tom what he thinks, Tom will give one answer, right? Or if you ask me what I think, I'll give one answer. And so it's interesting just how gelatinous that digital intelligence is. And at the same time, I find the AI incredibly interesting, not only as like a Google substitute, but as something that I can train to ask me questions. And so I can say, hey, I want you to help me grow my imagination around this particular thing. Ask me a series of questions that challenges my limited thinking or my capacity to dream. And that's a fantastic way of using ChatGPT versus saying, hey, what does some famous coach think or whatever, because that'll be fine, but it won't be as powerful as it holding space for you to do your own thinking.
One of the phrases I often use is the best gift you can ever give someone is introducing them to a new person or a new idea, right?
Oh, yeah.
It can change their life. Shout out to Brian Jacobs, who introduced me to my bride, right? Best gift ever. But the idea of meta performance there, I look at it, it's like the idea of once you see it, it's hard to unsee it. And it's like, why in the world have we always looked at being a performer, right? There's, it's good enough not to get fired. I'm the best in the company or whatever that is. What do we need to do to change the world to start thinking meta performance? And maybe that's what your mission is there at Novus Global and with all the coaches.
That is our mission. Our mission is to lead humanity into going beyond high performance. And I think the first step of that is simply permission giving. It's surrogate belief. I was talking recently to one of the most successful leaders, maybe at this point, the most successful leader in their industry. And we were having breakfast, I guess. We were having a meal together. And as we were talking, he was like, hey, man, I know that you believe this is possible for the next season of my career, but what if I don't believe it? And I said, hey, that's no problem. I'll believe enough for the both of us for now. And as your belief gets its sea legs, as your belief gets some stamina, then you can start standing, and then it'll be your belief that takes over and my belief can take a back seat. And so part of going beyond high performance, and it doesn't have to be a coach, although we'd be thrilled for it to be one of us, but part of going beyond high performance is simply surrounding yourself with people who give you permission and give that voice that you have in your heart that says, I have another gear, that says, there's more in me, that says, I think that I have more to offer the world. Just say, yeah, I think that voice is right. I think that voice is true. And then saying, and we're gonna act as if that were true, and we're gonna take some faith, and we're gonna take some risks. And that, in my opinion, that's what good friendship is. That's what good relationships are, and that's certainly what great coaching is.
I heard somebody say one time, most people want you to be happy. Those people that really love you want you to be better. And that's what you were just saying there, that it's like believing in somebody before they even believe themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And Arthur Brooks has made a great living selling books about happiness. And the funny thing about that is, I love his books, by the way. And he's a brilliant thinker, and he's very good at what your business is. He's so good at podcast interviews and everything. I just really admire him a lot. And he's not really talking about happiness. He's talking about fulfillment and calling it happiness. And I think that's a marketing trick. And I don't care, by the way, because what he's selling is the good stuff. He's just calling it something else. And I think most people over-index on their journey towards happiness, and they under-index their journey towards fulfillment. And the difference is that with happiness, people think that the purpose of happiness, or the way that you become happy, is by decreasing suffering. But the purpose of fulfillment is actually finding meaning in suffering. And the word passion means to suffer. So you know what you're passionate about when you know what you're willing to suffer for. And Arthur certainly does this, but he definitely points people towards things that are worth suffering for. And I think that's what good friends are. I think bad friends are always trying to make your life easier. Good friends are trying to help your life matter. And I think that's what you're saying as well.
Yeah. And when you were talking about, that as a coach, you believe in somebody before they believe in themselves, and then they come up to the speed there. Is that what you mean by like faith is a superpower? Because that's really struck me. It's like I never thought of that as a superpower.
Oh yeah, I mean, faith is a performance enhancing drug for sure, and it's people will not engage in behaviors that they have already predetermined are not going to work. And so again, like it's like the Shel Silverstein novel. I don't know if you like Shel Silverstein. When you were a kid, he's a poet, and he has a book called Where the Sidewalk Ends. And I think about that all the time, like taking people to the extreme of their competency, the end of their competency, and then saying, okay, what's next? And that's an imaginative exercise, and you cannot step into what's next with before you see it. It's not see it and then step into it. It's step into it and then you see it, and that is an act of faith. And that is, so to your point, yeah, like you cannot go beyond high performance without faith. And the more faith you have, faith doesn't guarantee success, but faith does increase the probability of success.
Jason, what's ordinary to you is amazing to others. I highly recommend checking out Beyond High Performance. It's one of those books that not only I read, I studied, I highlighted, and it's also on the Christmas list for a lot of people that are going to get that gift. I love giving books. So
thank you.
How do people get in touch with you? What's next steps?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two easy next steps. You can always check us out at novus.global, www.novus.global. That's our company website, and that has free resources and things like that. And speaking of free resources, we actually just launched a new thing where you can go online, and we'll put the link in the show notes, but you can go online and take our meta performance assessment, which will actually, it's an easy 10-minute assessment, but it's pretty robust for only 10 minutes. And it'll help you begin to diagnose where in your life are you performing, where are you high performing, and where are the potential areas for meta performance. And then if you take the assessment, we actually have coaches standing by who are then up for having a free consultation with you to walk you through the assessment and kind of figure out where you can do a little less, where you can do a little more, and where you might find the energy and the time to make all that happen.
Wow. Jason, thank you so much for all you do, how you're changing the world here, and sharing meta performance.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Well, that was Jason Jaggard. And if you're like me, you'll never see high performance the same way. Jason reminds us that success, it's not a finish line. It's the starting block. And that the real question isn't, how do I get ahead? But rather, what am I truly capable of? And when you ask bigger questions, you unlock bigger results. As podcast guests and thought leaders, our influence expands, not by doing more, but by imagining more, by daring to believe that there's still another level in us and sharing that journey authentically. So here's your next step. Take Jason's advice. Just don't listen to yourself. Get feedback from someone who's believable. That could be a coach, a peer, a trusted friend. Someone who sees your blind spots and your brilliance. And if you're already a coach or consultant, model this by having your own coach. You can't take clients further than you're willing to go yourself. And check out Jason's Meta Performance Assessment. It's great over at novus.global. It's a powerful free tool to see where you're playing small and where you're ready for more. You've got another level in you. Find it and share it with the world on your next podcast interview.